Chapter 1705. Yes. Xing Er responded calmly. Then, under Jing Yu's gaze, he walked to the side and took out a small signal flare from somewhere. It flew into the air like a firework. When Jing Yu saw this, she turned to Shangguan Linglan as if to ask him something. However, when she saw that Shanghai Linglan was also confused, she frowned. What was going on? Just as Jing Yu was about to ask Xiao Chen, she heard a different sound. Jing Yu was slightly taken aback. She slowly turned her head and looked at the sand dune in the distance. She vaguely saw the figure of a person. Jing Yu was slightly taken aback. She thought that she had seen wrongly. However, when Jing Yu blinked her eyes and focused her gaze, the figure that was striding forward became clearer and clearer. As the figures appeared one after another, Jing Yu's eyes were filled with astonishment. Rows of tall men and horses appeared. The uniform army rode their horses and quickly surrounded them. This army was like a tidal wave, causing Jing Yu's eyes to widen. This is... Jing Yu turned her head to look at Xiao Chen in astonishment. When she saw Xiao Chen's calm expression, she knew that Xiao Chen had arranged this long ago. However, why didn't she know anything about it? Second Anduk. When the people below saw this scene, their eyes were filled with astonishment. However, when the people on the city wall saw this scene, they almost lost their grip on their musical instruments. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. When they saw the thousands of men and horses approaching, they only had one thought in their minds. It's over. All of this was planned long ago. The person who was addressed as Second Ant took a deep breath. Her heart trembled as she pursed her lips tightly. Her eyes flashed with a very calm expression. Second Ant, what do we do now? Manor Head Ji asked. Hee. Second Ant smiled faintly and said, even if I die, I'll drag a few down with me. Second Ant, don't be rash. When those people heard the woman's words, their eyes were filled with shock as they asked. Ha! The woman said very calmly, I shouldn't have listened to your words back then and endured it again and again. Now that this has happened, do you still want me to submit to them? I, Shuang, have gone through 2 generations of changes. I've propped up this huge musical aristocratic family. I've seen it prosper. It's a first-rate aristocratic family on this continent. I've also seen it get destroyed with my own eyes. It's like a tortoise hiding in a corner of this continent. Now, I have tried my best to restore my family's glory, but I have taken a wrong step and pushed the fate of my family into a bottomless abyss. The woman named Shuang said sorrowfully. She didn't try to hide her voice at all. Everyone below could hear her clearly. They could even hear the hoarseness in her voice. Back then, Master told me that we, the Sound Attack clan, would either become the kings of the world, or never appear in the world again. If the clan can't protect its members, then, even if they die with the clan, they can't let any of their members wander about in the outside world. Chapter 1706. I will always remember Master's words. Shuang slowly curled her lips and said, before Master passed away, he passed on decades of internal energy to me so that I did not look the least bit old in the past 100 years. But I have to live up to Master's last words. When Shuang said this, her eyes were filled with murderous intent. Villa Master Ji and the others beside Shuang seemed to have thought of something. Their eyes widened and their hearts trembled uncontrollably. Second Ant. Don't. Everyone suddenly cried out. However, before they could finish speaking, they saw Shuang pick up the pipa and wave her fingers abruptly. The invisible sound blade flew out from her fingers and flew toward the disciples of the family of musical attack in all directions. When Villa Master Ji, who was beside Shuang, wanted to stop her, Shuang viciously slapped the pipa in her hand. The powerful internal energy blasted Villa Master Ji and the others back. I am the one who killed them. I will bear all the consequences of this. Shuang's eyes were filled with coldness. If you want to go down to the 18th level of hell, let me go down alone. Shuang's eyes were filled with madness. The disciples of the family of musical attack would never have imagined that Shuang would kill them. This was the ant they had always respected and loved. The merciless sound blade was a sharp weapon that reaped lives. Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events. Just as Shuang was killing in a frenzy, there was a sudden rush of sound from the zither. It was like a powerful sound blade that instantly cut the strings of the pipa. Enough. A very weak and clear voice was heard, and there was a hint of sickly weakness in it. "Aunt, are you really going to kill all the disciples of the family of musical attack?" The woman who spoke was holding a zither in her hands. Her pale face was full of questions as she stared quietly at Shuiying with her clear eyes. Shuiying's eyes were filled with shock when she saw that the pipa in her hand had been cut in half. "I don't like disputes, and I don't like this family of musical attack." The woman's face was very pale. Jingyu even felt that she might fall down from the city wall at any moment. "Imperial concubine of different pupils, there is no deep hatred between us." As the woman spoke, she slowly strummed the zither in her hand. The tune was one that Jingyu was familiar with. In fact, the effect of this tune on Jingyu was even more shocking than the 5 of them playing it together. "I can control you, but I can't control you." The woman stopped playing the zither and looked at Jingyu quietly. "My illness can't be delayed any longer. At most, I have 1 more year. I don't want to see war, and I don't want to see a scene of life and death." Musical attacks were originally made for musical instruments, but at some point it evolved into a weapon of murder. Everyone has forgotten the root of music. The woman curled her lips mockingly as she spoke. "The winner takes all. Now that we have fallen into your hands, I just want to tell you that it's not that you and I can't coexist, but that we have been forced to. I've sent your friends back to you. Now that the family of musical attack has suffered countless casualties, do you still want to go on a killing spree?" When the woman asked if she still wanted to go on a killing spree, Jingyu clearly felt a strong murderous aura. That feeling made Jingyu feel very uncomfortable. She even felt threatened. Chapter 1707. Jingyu was flustered by the tune that the woman had just played. It was a tune that she had never heard before. Jingyu slowly frowned. Just as she was deep in thought, the sound of something piercing through the air was heard. Screech. 2 icy arrows pierced Shuiying's throat and the throats of 2 other short and stout men. "You!" The woman who was playing the zither placed her hand on the zither almost instantly. "In order to show your sincerity in reconciling, these 2 lives are a trade." Before the woman could play the zither, a cold voice was heard. A man in black armor riding a horse appeared from within the army. Xiao Bai. When Jingyu saw Xiao Bai's handsome face and the longbow in his hand, she knew that the person who had shot the arrows was Xiao Bai. "You've gone too far." Villaheadji was trembling all over. "That's right, I'm bullying you." Xiao Bai curled his lips coldly and said, "Could it be that you want to experience what it feels like to massacre an entire city? Miss, you'd better let go of your hand. Do you think that I'll give you the chance to hurt my mother?" Xiao Bai's eyes were filled with hostility as he glared at the woman and said, "I originally didn't want to take their lives. However, I saw that you were very arrogant about your sound attack technique and actually dared to threaten my mother. Since that's the case, I'll let you see if your sound attack or my arrows are faster. Let's see if your blade is faster or my brother's blades are faster. If you dare to move a single inch, I'll slaughter your entire city with my sound attack." As Xiao Bai spoke, the corners of his mouth curled up happily. His pitch-black eyes stared intently at the people on the city wall as he said slowly, "Do you want to try and see if I dare to do so?" Xiao Bai's words were so arrogant that everyone who saw this scene silently swallowed their saliva. Their eyes were tinged with a little fear. At this moment, they felt a deep sense of suffocation. The people on the city wall looked at Xiao Bai and listened to his words. They couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. No one knew whether it was from fear or anger, but after Xiao Bai's words, no one from the sound attack family dared to say another word. The surroundings fell into a deathly silence. "Jingyu?" A voice called out from the side. Jingyu turned her head and saw that Yi Shui and Bai Jiu had come out. Jingyu's uneasy heart finally relaxed. "Yi Shui, are you all right? Are you hurt?" Jingyu looked at Yi Shui anxiously. "I'm fine." Jingyu pursed her lips slightly as she looked at the situation in front of her and said, "The people from the sound attack family didn't do anything to me. They just put me under house arrest. Let them go. I believe that after this incident, they will understand a lot." Jing Yu was silent for a moment as she looked at the situation in front of her. She looked at Xue Ying, who was still talking a second ago, but now fell on the sand wall of the Sand City with his eyes wide open. She suddenly felt very sad. The Sound Attack family had fallen and received the retribution they deserved. However, Jing Yu felt that her heart was stifled. Jing Yu opened her mouth slightly as if she wanted to say something. However, just as Jing Yu was about to say something, the pair of golden-green eyes suddenly turned pitch black. She felt her heart skip a beat and then collapsed without any warning. Chapter 1708. Mother. Jing Yu. Jing Yu heard the panicked cries of the crowd as she fell into a coma. A familiar scent wafted into her nose. Jing Yu woke up amidst the unstable shaking and slowly opened her eyes. Her brain stopped working for a moment. She moved her body and realized that she was being held in someone's arms. This familiar scent made it obvious who was hugging her. Are you awake? Xiao Chen's voice came from above her head with a hint of affection. How long have I been asleep? Jing Yu asked with a slight frown. Not long, 2 days. Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu and said calmly. I've been asleep for so long. What's wrong with me? Jing Yu suddenly jumped up and swallowed her saliva. She looked at Xiao Chen and asked, What's wrong with me? Why did I suddenly fall asleep? You fainted. Xiao Chen touched Jing Yu's cheek and said helplessly, When will you learn to be more mindful of yourself? It was fine when you got pregnant the first time, but now you're pregnant again. Don't you feel anything? What? Jing Yu was stunned for half a minute. She stared at Xiao Chen and asked crisply, I'm pregnant again? Xiao Chen nodded slowly. He looked at Jing Yu and said, You've been pregnant for more than a month, almost 2 months. Oh my God! Jing Yu's face twitched violently. For the first time, she felt that she was so stupid. However, she had been worried about other things during this period of time and hadn't paid attention to it. Jing Yu frowned deeply. Why am I pregnant again? Jing Yu frowned, feeling conflicted. She reached out and touched her belly, feeling very bitter. I just gave birth to little potato. Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen angrily and said, You're a bad person. I don't want another one. I didn't expect it either. Xiao Chen touched the tip of his nose helplessly and said, I didn't think about it at first, but I didn't pay attention. So, now that you're pregnant, let's give birth. I don't want to. Jing Yu stared at Xiao Chen angrily. She looked at Xiao Chen's calm face and was filled with hatred. She looked at Xiao Chen with disdain and said, Why is it that women give birth in this world? It would be great if it was a man. I'll let you experience what it's like to give birth. Jing Yu said angrily as she stared at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's face froze when he heard Jing Yu's words. He silently hugged Jing Yu and said, I heard that the second time you give birth won't be as painful as the first time. I promise. What's the use of your promise? Go away. Jing Yu shook off Xiao Chen's hand in disdain. She lowered her head and stared at her stomach. Her heart was filled with bitterness, but there was also a hint of joy in her heart. So many things had happened during Little Potato's birth. This time, she couldn't let anything happen to the child. When the child was born, Little Potato would come back. It would be great to have a companion then. Jing Yu thought about it and felt much better. She sighed deeply and turned to look at Xiao Chen's calm face. Hey, are you unhappy that I'm pregnant? Jing Yu pouted and asked Xiao Chen unhappily. Chapter 1709. Happy, very happy. Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu's expression and quickly reached out to hug her. He gently rubbed his head against Jing Yu's head. That's more like it. Jing Yu lay in Xiao Chen's arms in satisfaction. The bumpy carriage made Jing Yu frown slightly. She then asked, Where are we now? We are still in the desert. Xiao Chen pursed his lips slightly as if he knew what Jing Yu wanted to ask. He faintly lowered his eyes and said, Xiaobai didn't make things difficult for the Sound Attack family. The Sound Attack family signed an agreement to never step out of the Pingyao Desert. The agreement lasts for 100 years, Xiao Chen said very calmly. Now we are going back to Tokyo. 100 years agreement. Jing Yu slowly nodded. Her eyes were very calm. She slightly narrowed her eyes and said, That's good. After 100 years, the world will change. As for what it will be like, time will decide. But Jing Yu's words changed. She looked at Xiao Chen and said, "When did you make such preparations? Xiao Bai brought so many people?" "It was the emperor's arrangement." Xiao Chen faintly lowered his head. He played with Jing Yu's fingers and said, "This was the emperor's decision. It was also used to invite us back." "What do you mean?" Jing Yu was slightly taken aback. When she raised her head to look into Xiao Chen's dark eyes, Jing Yu immediately smiled. Xiao Chen didn't say anything, but Jing Yu understood. She faintly curved her eyebrows and said, "This is the emperor's fear of us." The corners of Xiao Chen's lips curled up slightly as he said, "If you let us go outside, Xiao Yuling will have to worry about whether or not we will declare ourselves kings. With our current rallying power, establishing a royal city is a simple matter. Instead of worrying about us declaring ourselves as kings outside, it's better to trap us in Dongqing, right under his nose. If there's really anything unusual, we can prepare for it immediately." Xiao Chen's words were very calm. It was as if he didn't care at all that Xiao Yuling was scheming against him. "Aren't you angry?" Jing Yu was immediately curious and asked calmly. "If Xiao Yuling didn't scheme against me, I would find it strange." Xiao Chen tightened his grip on Jing Yu's hand. He looked at Jing Yu and said, "When Xiao Yuling was the crown prince, he knew how to rely on me. When he was still the crown prince. Now that he is the emperor, he is smart not to offend me. Instead, he is praising us endlessly." Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes slightly and said calmly, "It's respect, but it's also telling us clearly that he's afraid." "As for me," Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and said, "I don't care about that position. However, if he doesn't sit well, I don't mind replacing him. The Tokyo was ruined once. I don't want the Tokyo to be ruined a second time." "I understand." Jing Yu nodded. She looked at Xiao Chen's side profile. She used to think that Xiao Chen had too many things in his head. Now, it seemed that there were indeed too many things in his head. "There is one more thing." The carriage was silent for a moment. Then Xiao Chen said, "I know that you are still thinking about Yin Jian and Yin Feng in the Roman forest. I asked Shengguan Linglan to bring them close to the Tokyo Imperial City." Chapter 1710. As for your desire to return to the forest, you are pregnant and it is inconvenient for you to move around. Once the child is safely born, let's go together. How about that? Xiao Chen looked deeply into Jing Yu's eyes as he asked. When Jing Yu heard Xiao Chen's words, a faint smile appeared in her eyes. She reached out to hug Xiao Chen's neck and said, "Since you have already made up your mind, what's wrong with me?" Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu's expression and reached out to hug Jing Yu's waist. He raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Now that everything has been resolved, can you be at ease?" "Yes, I'm at ease." Jing Yu turned around and lay in Xiao Chen's arms. She looked at the shaking roof of the carriage and was slightly absent-minded. All these things happened so quickly. From the moment they were chased out, they began a journey of desperation. Along the way, some people died, some lived, and some were the same as before. Some of them, however, found a partner for life. Some people died with regret, some died with unwillingness, and some left with relief. In this strange world, Jing Yu pursued comfort and peace. She didn't want to live such a vigorous life. Perhaps she really wasn't suited for peace. There were too many people she cared about and needed her protection. Jing Yu treasured this very much. Perhaps she didn't expect that Ning Xiangyuan, who used to treat her sincerely, would end up in such a situation. Now that she thought about it, Ning Xiangyuan had probably always been that kind of person. She also didn't expect that the first time she met Shengguan Linglan on the streets of the Imperial City, the first time they met, would end up in such a situation. That silly girl who had protected her no matter what happened in the Imperial City had changed overnight. That silly girl who had insisted on following her even if it meant sacrificing the entire general's residence. Back then, she had said that her father was her father. She wanted Jing Yu to know clearly that in this life, this silly girl was someone she would protect with her life. Great Shengguan Linglan, this silly girl. She met the person who was willing to protect her with his life. How wonderful! Tears welled up in Jing Yu's eyes as she thought about it. She always felt that she had walked through her entire life in a trance. Along the way, there were many parting of life and death. There were also many times when she was touched and sad, laughing and crying. Many years later, when they were old and gray-haired, they would sit in the courtyard and talk about their experiences. It would definitely be like listening to a shocking story. Jingyu closed her eyes. Her golden-green eyes were sparkling. She lowered her eyes and the corners of her mouth curled up. She seemed to have thought of something interesting which made people feel happy. The road back to the imperial city of Tokyo was very smooth. They didn't encounter any strange assassinations or strange poisons. They didn't have to worry about this and that anymore. The noisy past was gradually fading away. After 3.5 months in Jingyu's stomach, Jingyu, Xiao Chen, and the rest finally returned to the Tokyo. It was as if they had finally returned to the starting point after a long journey. It made their hearts surge with emotion. The 9 emperors' carriage entered the city. It was still as grand as before. The only difference was that Jingyu was sitting in the carriage. She lifted the curtain slightly and looked at the people lining the road to welcome them. She suddenly felt that it was very funny. Chapter 1711. When she had been chased out by everyone. But now, it was completely different. The human heart. What an interesting thing. Are you ready? Just as Jingyu was pondering, Xiao Chen's voice rang out. Jingyu turned her head and met Xiao Chen's pitch-black eyes. Even after so many years, his eyes were still as moving as ever. Of course. Jingyu raised her chin slightly and replied with a faint smile on her face. The door to the carriage opened. Emperor Xiao Yuling and Empress Lu Miaoqiu were standing in front of the palace gates. They were wearing bright yellow dragon robes and phoenix robes. Xiao Chen, who was wearing a black robe, stepped out of the carriage. He casually stood by the side of the carriage. Instantly, the breathing of the crowd quieted down. Xiao Chen turned and stretched out his hand towards the door of the carriage. His deep eyes quietly looked at Jingyu. When Jingyu saw Xiao Chen like this, a faint smile appeared in her eyes. However, she lowered her eyes and placed her hand on Xiao Chen's hand. Under everyone's gaze, Jingyu, who was also wearing a luxurious black robe, casually tied up her hair. She walked down the carriage with Xiao Chen's support and stood beside Xiao Chen. That pair of golden-green eyes shone with a demonic light under the sunlight. That originally beautiful face was even more startling because of this pair of different-colored eyes. At this moment, everyone's breathing became lighter. They personally watched as Xiao Chen and Jingyu walked toward Xiao Yuling. Greetings to the Emperor and Empress. The two bowed. Jingyu wasn't used to the custom after so long. 9th Emperors, 9th Imperial Aunt, please rise. It's been a tiring journey. He hadn't seen Xiao Yuling for a long time. Now that he saw Xiao Yuling like this, he felt that it was very interesting. The way she spoke was somewhat like how an emperor should be. Your Majesty is too serious. Xiao Chen bowed once again. Your Majesty, Chinchia heard that the 9th imperial concubine is still pregnant. Why don't we enter the palace first? Lu Miaoqiu said. Yes. When the 9th emperors and 9th imperial aunt returned, we were so happy that we forgot. Let's go in. Xiao Yuling turned and walked into the palace. Xiao Chen and Xiao Yuling walked in front of the palace gates. Jingyu and Lu Miaoqiu naturally walked behind them. Yu. Lu Miaoqiu held Jingyu's hand and called out. Why did you come out personally to receive them? Jingyu glared at Lu Miaoqiu and said unhappily, Look at your big belly. Jingyu said as she looked helplessly at Lu Miaoqiu's belly. It was already 5 months old. Lu Miaoqiu was wearing a loose robe, but it still couldn't hide it. It's fine. Lu Miaoqiu held Jingyu's hand intimately and said, I just didn't expect you to be pregnant. We're only 2 months apart. It's really amazing. Yes, I didn't expect it either. Jingyu said as she touched her own belly. She arched her eyebrows and said, Now only Linglan is left. This time, the most important thing to do is to arrange Linglan and Xing Er's wedding. Yes, we'll tell His Majesty later. Lu Miaoqiu and Jingyu nodded in agreement. The two of them quickly settled the matter. Because of the military matters, The person involved had to first settle the soldiers and horses before he could enter the palace to report. When he entered the palace, he finished his official report and rushed to the harem without saying a word. Chapter 1712. Little Miaoqiu. Little Yeye. Before this person entered the room, Shangguan Linglan's voice could be heard. The palace maid waiting outside didn't even need to announce his arrival. Come in. Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. She saw that before Lu Miaoqiu finished speaking, Shangguan Linglan had already rushed in. He looked at Jing Yu and Lu Miaoqiu with joy and then sat down on the empty seat at the side. I'm so thirsty. Shangguan Linglan poured himself a cup of water without saying anything and said, I've done my best to help the emperor, but he didn't even let me drink water and chased me out. I don't know what he said to the 9th empress. Even if he told you, you wouldn't understand. Jing Yu rolled her eyes in disdain and said, You came at the right time. We were just discussing your marriage. Pfft. As soon as Jing Yu finished speaking, Shangguan Linglan spat out a mouthful of tea. Fortunately, Jing Yu and Lu Miaoqiu dodged in time and were spared. It was a pity that the tea and snacks on the table were ruined. Shangguan Linglan, you spat out my good tea and almost ruined mine. You stinking brat. Lu Miaoqiu looked at the tea and snacks that she had carefully prepared, but Shangguan Linglan directly spat out a mouthful of tea. She was so angry that her face turned ashen. Cough, cough, cough. When Shangguan Linglan heard Lu Miaoqiu's words, he immediately coughed and said, Who told you to suddenly say that? Jing Yu rolled her eyes and looked at Shangguan Linglan and said, Look, Miaoqiu is pregnant and you're not married yet. Last time, you had an excuse to say that I wasn't around. Now we're both here. What do you want this time? Shangguan Linglan lowered his head in grievance and sighed deeply. He said, I know. Isn't it just getting married? Let's do it. It's good that you agree. Jing Yu and Lu Miaoqiu smiled faintly and said, Since that's the case, let Miaoqiu talk to the emperor. As for the arrangements, the Wang estate and the general's estate will handle it together. Hey, what are you two doing? Shangguan Linglan looked at Jing and Lu Miaoqiu and suddenly had a bad premonition. Don't worry about it. Jing Yu smiled at Shangguan Linglan and said, Just wait for your wedding. As for Xing Heir's identity, Miaoqiu will leave it to you. I'll take care of Xing Heir's residence. No problem. Lu Miaoqiu nodded happily. Shangguan Linglan stared blankly at Lu Miaoqiu and Jing Yu. They were so excited that they didn't care who was getting married. Jing Yu and Lu Miaoqiu hadn't seen each other for a long time. Now that they finally met, they naturally had a lot to talk about. The three of them talked for a long time. Xiao Yuling and Xiao Chen also talked for a long time. By the time they left the palace, the sky had already darkened. Jing Yu returned to the Wang estate and fell asleep without saying anything. She hadn't had a good sleep in a long time. Jing Yu had slept in too many places. In the trees, in the forest, on the grass, on the rocks, in the desert, in the wind, and in the most dangerous places and environments. Chapter 1713. She had miraculously fallen asleep. Jing Yu wasn't used to the hustle and bustle of the imperial city at first. She hadn't been served for a long time. Jing Yu was still a little dazed. She turned her head slightly to look at the soft bed. Jing Yu's lips curled up slightly. She really came back? Jing Yu propped herself up and sat up. Yin Xiao, who was outside, heard the commotion and said happily, Imperial consort, are you awake? This familiar voice and familiar form of address caused Jing Yu's eyes to be slightly dazed. She then replied, I'm awake. Come in. Yin Xiao led a group of people inside and helped Jing Yu wash up. She took out several clothes for Jing Yu to choose from. Jing Yu frowned slightly and seemed to be a little impatient. She had always worn black clothes in the past. When did she have so many things to choose from? I'll take this one. Jing Yu randomly pointed at a piece. Yin Xiao and a group of maids came forward to help Jing Yu dress. Jing Yu frowned uncomfortably. The maids who were serving her looked at Jing Yu's frown and didn't dare to breathe loudly. When most of these people had left, Jing Yu seemed to slowly sigh in relief and allowed Yin Xiao to help her dress. Yin Xiao, where did Xiao Chen go? Jing Yu looked at herself in the mirror and asked Yin Xiao with narrowed eyes. The 9th emperors went to the palace. Yin Xiao bowed slightly and replied. Why did the emperor summon him out of the blue? Jing Yu frowned slightly and asked curiously. Imperial consort, you don't know yet, right? In a few days, the emperor of the northern pastoral country will come to visit our Tokyo. He said that he wants to establish friendly relations. Yin Xiao put in the last hairpin for Jing Yu. Then she bowed slightly and said, Imperial consort, it's done. Hellion Theo is coming to Tokyo? When Jing Yu heard Yin Xiao's words, her eyes were filled with curiosity. She stood up with Yin Xiao's help and asked with narrowed eyes, when are they coming? Why didn't I hear Xiao Chen mention it? This servant also does not know when Emperor Hellion will arrive. Yin Xiao lowered her head slightly and said, last night, the imperial concubine slept early and woke up late today. The 9th emperors must not have had time to tell the imperial concubine. That's true. Jing Yu nodded slowly. She lowered her eyes slightly and said, did you send the visiting card I asked you to send to the general's residence yesterday? It was sent. General Shangguan said that he will personally come to visit the 9th emperors and the imperial concubine tomorrow. Yin Xiao replied respectfully. Jing Yu nodded slightly. After eating breakfast, she walked around the courtyard. Looking at the courtyard, Jing Yu sighed deeply. She was used to these bumpy days. Suddenly, she was not used to such a leisurely life. Jing Yu sighed deeply and looked at the beautiful flowers under the sun. Just as she was in a daze, she saw a servant running towards Jing Yu. What is it? Jing Yu looked at the person running in front of her. She frowned slightly and asked. Imperial concubine, Scholar Xiao requests to see the imperial concubine. The servant said respectfully. Scholar Xiao? Who is it? When Jing Yu suddenly heard this Scholar Xiao, she was stunned and asked in confusion. Yin Xiao quickly went forward and said, Imperial concubine, it's Lord Yijuan. The emperor gave him the surname of Xiao and he holds a position in the scholar courtyard. In the future, he will be the crown prince's teacher. Chapter 1714. So it's Yijuan. Jing Yu's eyes widened in joy as she said, quickly invite him in. I haven't seen Yijuan in a long time. I don't know how old this child is. The last time I came back, I was in too much of a hurry to meet him. At that time, there was a coup and Jing Yu was very busy. Now, she finally had the time to meet him. Originally, Jing Yu wanted Yijuan to come directly to the inner courtyard. However, Yijuan was no longer a child and could not enter the inner courtyard as he wished. Thus, she had no choice but to meet him in the main hall. Jing Yu sat on the high seat and was slightly stunned when she saw the person walking in. Even the teacup in her hand was stunned. Xiao Yijuan greets the 9th imperial concubine. That gentle voice, handsome face, and tall figure caused Jing Yu to be stunned for a long time. It was only after Yin Xiao reminded her that Jing Yu came back to her senses. No need to be so polite. Jing Yu put down the teacup in her hand and beckoned to Yijuan. Come up a little. Yes. Yijuan was silent for a moment and walked in front of Jing Yu. Jing Yu looked at the handsome man standing in front of her. She could not imagine that the stinky brat who used to bare his teeth at her would look like this after so many years. Jing Yu instantly laughed. Looking at Yijuan's face, she seemed to recall the first time Xiao Chen brought Yijuan back to the residence. This brat called her an ugly woman the moment he opened his mouth. Now he was so polite. Who said that only a woman could change 18 times between childhood and womanhood? This man had changed 19 times. Yijuan, you've grown up. Jing Yu's golden-green eyes flickered with deep nostalgia as she said, if we met on the streets, I wouldn't dare to recognize you. When Yijuan heard Jing Yu's words, he lowered his head and said, I think I'm growing up too slowly. Otherwise, I would be able to help you. Unfortunately, when I grew up and could help you, you didn't need me anymore. What are you talking about? Jing Yu pursed her lips and looked at Yijuan. I heard that you're already a scholar? When my child is born in the future, can't you help me teach him well? It's easy if you want to help me. I'm just afraid you'll find it troublesome, Jing Yu said with a slight smile. Xiao Yijuan agreed without hesitation. I will never forget the kindness that the 9th Emperors and the 9th Imperial Concubine have shown me. It's not a big deal. If you weren't smart, I wouldn't have been able to help you. Jingyu looked at Yijuan and said, Xiao Chen has gone to the palace and should be back soon. Stay for dinner before you leave. Thank you, 9th Imperial Concubine, for your hospitality. However, Yijuan is now an official and I have many things to take care of at home. I won't disturb you. Yijuan raised his head and looked at Jingyu. His lips moved slightly as he said, I just came to see you, as long as you're safe. This silly child. Jingyu looked at Yijuan's appearance and slightly raised her eyebrows. She said, since you have something on you, then I won't keep you. Seeing that you're living such a good life, I'm relieved. Thank you, 9th Imperial Concubine. Yijuan thanked her again. After sending Yijuan off, Jingyu stood in the hall and sighed deeply. She didn't know why, but when she saw that Yijuan had grown up, Jingyu suddenly felt a little upset in her heart. Chapter 1715. Yin Xiao, do you think I'm old? Jingyu suddenly turned her head and asked Yin Xiao. What are you talking about, Imperial Concubine? Imperial Concubine is so young and beautiful, how can you be old? Yin Xiao was slightly stunned by Jingyu's question, then she replied with a smile. That's right. Jingyu calculated carefully. She was only in her 20s, the age when she just graduated from university in the modern era. Why did she feel so old? Speaking of which, she had lived 2 lives. She wasn't old in person, but her heart was old. The more Jingyu thought about it, the more she smiled. The corners of her lips curled up faintly. She turned her head to look at Yin Xiao and said, Go and see if 9th uncle has returned. Tell him that I miss him. If he doesn't return soon, I'm going to flip the heavens. When Yin Xiao heard Jingyu's words, a faint smile appeared in her eyes as she replied respectfully. When Xiao Chen came back, Jingyu was indeed flipping the heavens. Xiao Chen walked into the room and saw Jingyu, who had thrown her blanket all over the floor. Jingyu was lying on the floor. Although the floor was covered with a blanket, how could she just lie on it like that? Jingyu. Xiao Chen's voice was filled with anger. He went forward and carried Jingyu. Aya! Jingyu cried out in surprise. She blinked her eyes and looked at Xiao Chen. You're finally back. If you didn't come back, I would have been bored to death. Who allowed you to sleep on the floor? Xiao Chen frowned and looked at Jingyu. You're pregnant with my child. Jingyu snorted softly and said unhappily, Don't I feel comfortable on the floor? Besides, there's such a thick carpet on the floor. What's there to be afraid of? Xiao furrowed his brows tightly. He really did not know what to say to his unique little wife. Jingyu hugged Xiao Chen's neck and acted coquettishly. After rolling on the soft couch for a long time, Jingyu finally opened her mouth and asked, What did you do in the palace? I heard that Hellion Theo is coming? When will he come? What are you doing here? Did the emperor mention anything about Linglan's marriage? Jingyu threw out one question after another. Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu's small mouth and suddenly kissed her angrily. Jingyu was caught off guard. Why did you suddenly kiss me? Jingyu touched her lips that were red from Xiao Chen's kiss and asked unhappily with a frown. Her eyes were wide open and it was clear that she was unhappy. This king left early in the morning and returned late at night. Shouldn't you, as his wife, greet him when he gets home? Xiao Chen glared at Jingyu as if he expected better from her. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen's unhappy expression and a smile appeared in her eyes. Oh, so you're blaming me for not serving you well? Jingyu stood up seriously and reached out to rub Xiao Chen's shoulders. She said softly, Husband, you've worked hard in the palace today. This concubine will help you massage your shoulders. What do you think? Husband, what do you want to eat today? I asked the kitchen to prepare your favorite shredded potato, Jingyu said as she massaged Xiao Chen's shoulders. For some reason, when he heard Jingyu say shredded potato, Xiao Chen suddenly thought of little potato being placed on the dining table. His hair stood on end and his body trembled violently. Chapter 1716. My wife is pregnant. You should rest well. Xiao Chen smiled at Jingyu. Oh, Is that so? You don't want me to serve you anymore? Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen with a smile and said, "This is my duty as a wife. Isn't that what you said, royal uncle?" I know my mistake." Xiao Chen sighed deeply. If Jing Yu treated him like this every day, Xiao Chen would definitely die of frustration. Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen with disdain and lay back down. She narrowed her eyes at Xiao Chen and said, "Can you tell me about the matters in the palace now?" Xiao Chen pursed his lips and said, "Xing Heir has been conferred the title of Northern General. The imperial edict for the marriage has also been issued. The date is half a month from now. Helian Theo will also arrive half a month later. As for why Helian Theo is here, it's probably for the peace treaty. You don't have to worry about that." Xiao Chen pursed his lips and said, "If you have nothing to do, think about which residence in the palace is suitable to be the Northern General's residence. Also, Xing Heir is someone from this prince's residence, so his marriage won't be shabby at all. If you don't find it annoying, you can discuss with the steward about trifling matters such as the betrothal gifts, the guests to be invited, and the dishes needed for the banquet. You mustn't embarrass the prince's residence." "Okay." Jing Yu's face was filled with joy when she heard Xiao Chen's words. This Xiao Yuling is really not bad. One is a female general, and he gave Xing Heir the title of Northern General. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with joy as she said calmly, "Well matched." Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and said, "Besides, don't you have this king's mansion to support you?" Yes. Jing Yu nodded and said, "The wedding is in half a month? That might seem a little rushed, but with our financial resources and manpower, half a month should be enough," Jing Yu said happily. "Let me make this clear first." Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu solemnly and said, "This time, we can't do it like we did in Yangzhou City. We're in the imperial city right now, do you understand? Do I look like a brainless person to you?" Jing Yu glared at Xiao Chen angrily. Xiao Chen was silent for a moment, then said, "Since you like it so much, I'll leave it to you." "All right." Jing Yu said happily, "I'll definitely make it look good for you. I won't let you lose face." Also, Xiao Chen frowned again and said, "You're still pregnant, so you shouldn't work too hard. Xing went out, so I'll leave 15th to you. If there's anything, tell 15th to tell me." Jing Yu agreed obediently. Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu's excited expression and shook his head helplessly. "I still have some things to take care of. Eat whatever you want, don't wait for me." Jing Yu nodded again. "As for the shredded potatoes, don't eat them anymore." After Xiao Chen said this, he kissed Jing Yu's forehead and left. Jing Yu blinked and wanted to ask Xiao Chen why. However, Xiao Chen had already left. "Don't eat the shredded potatoes?" Jing Yu frowned and suddenly thought of Little Potato, then, the shredded potatoes. Chapter 1717. The moment Jing Yu thought about it, her stomach started to feel uncomfortable. She immediately threw up at the side. Yin Xiao thought that Jing Yu was like this because she was pregnant. Jing Yu decisively ordered the kitchen to never allow potatoes to appear on the dining table. Yin Xiao didn't know why, but since it was Jing Yu's order, she followed it. Because Jing Yu was in charge of Xing Heir's marriage, Jing Yu's originally boring life instantly became busy. Jing Yu also personally took care of the selection of the general's residence. Actually, Jing Yu just wanted to use this as an excuse to walk around the streets. It's really lively outside. Jing Yu sat in the palanquin. She lifted the curtains slightly and looked outside. When she saw the people coming and going on the streets, she immediately curled the corners of her mouth into a joyful smile. Imperial concubine, quickly close the curtains. Don't let anyone see. Yin Xiao, who was standing beside the sedan, quickly said, "I know." Jing Yu unwillingly put down the curtains. This annoying Xiao Chen. Why did he still want her to wear a veil when everything was fine now? Imperial concubine is here. Just as Jing Yu was cursing in her heart, Yin Xiao's voice came from outside. Jing Yu responded faintly and reached out to pick up the veil on the other side and put it on. Only then did she get off the carriage. "Madam, be careful." 15th Xing looked at Jing Yu nervously. "Don't be so careful." Jing Yu helplessly rolled her eyes and said, The child is fine. Nothing will happen. 15th Xing responded respectfully. However, he still looked very careful. Jing Yu helplessly shook her head. However, her eyes were filled with a faint smile. This Xiaochen really liked to make a big fuss over nothing. Is this the best house in this area? Jing Yu turned to Steward Chui and asked. Yes, I have sent someone to investigate. This is the best house in this area. Steward Chui nodded respectfully. Let's go in and take a look. If this house is all right, we can renovate it and make it the Northern General's residence. Jing Yu responded faintly and walked towards the courtyard. The courtyard was very spacious. Jing Yu looked at the layout through the veil and was very satisfied. Just as Jing Yu was thinking about continuing forward, she suddenly saw a black shadow flash by. She frowned slightly and turned to look at 15th Interrogation Officer. 15th Interrogation Officer nodded slightly and left silently without anyone noticing. This house is really not bad. Jing Yu nodded her head in satisfaction. Everything was there and it was very grand. It would be perfect to treat this residence as the general's residence. I think it's not bad too. Steward Chui's eyes curved into crescents as he smiled. Such a good location and such a good house. How could it be empty for so long? It really shouldn't be. Jing Yu frowned slightly and said, Steward Chui, is there something fishy about this house? No. I specially asked the stewards and they all said that this house is good. Steward Chui quickly waved his hand and said, Is that so? Jing Yu calmly narrowed her eyes and glanced at Steward Chui. When they entered the house, Jing Yu clearly saw the looks of the people outside pointing at the house. As for that black shadow, Jing Yu's lips curled into an amused smile. It seemed that today would be very interesting. Chapter 17-18. Yin Xiao, go out and ask around. Jing Yu looked sideways at Yin Xiao and said, Ask a few more people. I want to know what's so strange about this house. Yin Xiao responded, turned around, and left. When Steward Chui saw the scene, he instantly wiped off his cold sweat. He stood at the side and did not dare to make a sound. He only muttered in his heart, That damned person better not get me into trouble. Madam! Yin Xiao had only left for a while before she ran back in a panic. Her eyes were filled with panic as she looked at Jing Yu and said, Madam, leave this place quickly. The people outside are all saying that this is a haunted house. It's not clean inside. Don't offend Madam and the young master in Madam's belly. As Yin Xiao spoke, she wanted to protect Jing Yu and leave. Jing Yu's eyes were instantly filled with a smile. Don't be so busy. Jing Yu looked at Yin Xiao indifferently and stopped her. She turned around to look at Steward Chui and asked very calmly, Tell this imperial concubine what's going on. Don't tell me you think this imperial concubine is a woman. So you colluded with the people from the Ministry of Revenue to bully this imperial concubine? Jing Yu's words were filled with sternness. When Steward Chui heard Jing Yu's words, his body trembled violently. His face was filled with fear as he begged for mercy. Ninth imperial concubine, please forgive me. This servant was greedy and did not find out clearly before getting someone to bring over the key. I never expected that the people from the Ministry of Revenue would filter out this unclean house. Steward Chui was simply paralyzed with fear. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with coldness as she said coldly, Go and call the people from the Ministry of Revenue here. This imperial concubine wants to ask them properly whether they think this imperial concubine is easy to bully. As soon as Jing Yu said this, Steward Chui knew that something big was about to happen. When the ninth imperial concubine was choosing a residence for her subordinates, she was attacked by something unclean. It was the residence behind her. When this news spread, the entire imperial city was in an uproar. When the people from the Ministry of Revenue heard this news, they were shocked. The Minister of Revenue scrambled to appear in front of Jing Yu. Greetings to the ninth imperial concubine. Jing Yu asked someone to bring a chair over. At this moment, she was sitting leisurely in the courtyard. She quietly looked at the Minister of Revenue and the Assistant Minister of Revenue kneeling on the ground. Looking at their faces dripping with cold sweat, Jing Yu suddenly felt that it was very amusing. You're the Minister of Revenue? Jing Yu didn't call him out. Instead, she asked calmly. Yes, this lowly official is. The Minister of Revenue, He Zhou, had been in his position for a very long time. What kind of storms and waves had he not seen? But today, he knew that he was in big trouble. His face instantly turned pale and he knelt on the ground motionlessly. Jing Yu looked at He Zhou's appearance and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Let me ask you, are you in charge of the matters of this residence? Jing Yu asked calmly. Her face was covered by a veil and her words were very calm. He Zhou's body trembled violently when he heard this question. Here it comes. It is this lowly official who is in charge. As He Zhou responded to Jing Yu's words, he was thinking about how to find an excuse for himself. Chapter 17:19. Let me ask you again. Jing Yu narrowed her eyes and asked again, did you personally inspect this residence? And did you check it properly? You could have included it in the selection? This lowly official is only in charge of taking in the mansions. This matter of taking them out for screening was checked by the people from the Supreme Court before it could be used for screening. He Zhou swallowed his saliva slightly and said, Is that so? Jing Yu's lips curled up calmly. He Zhou shuddered when he heard Jing Yu's question. He made up his mind. No matter what, he was going to be punished. Then he would drag everyone down with him. I wouldn't dare to lie to the 9th Imperial concubine. He Zhou said with a long face, I didn't expect the Supreme Court to be so negligent. They didn't even check the residence properly before reporting it. I didn't expect to offend the 9th Imperial concubine. Please forgive me, 9th Imperial concubine. I deserve to die 10,000 times. He Zhou said with a sorrowful expression. When Jing Yu heard this person's words, she couldn't help but laugh. These people's words were really interesting. On one hand, they were asking for forgiveness, while on the other hand, they were saying that they deserved to die. Jing Yu felt that teasing these people was very interesting. Since Lord He has said so, then go and call the people from the Supreme Court over. Jing Yu calmly raised her eyebrows slightly and turned her head to say. He Zhou heard Jing Yu's words and swallowed his saliva silently. His heart couldn't help but beat faster. He didn't know what Jing Yu was thinking. He originally thought that he could fool her, but now, it seemed like it wouldn't be easy to fool her. Xiao Chen and Xiao Yuling were discussing official matters in the palace when they suddenly heard this news. Both of them were stunned. It was said that the 9th Imperial concubine had taken away the Minister of Revenue and the Supreme Court. When this news reached Xiao Chen and Xiao Yuling's ears, they were immediately dumbfounded. What kind of big deal was this? What exactly happened? Xiao Yuling frowned and asked the person who came to report the news. I heard that the 9th Imperial concubine brought people to choose a residence for the Zhenyuan general. However, when they entered the residence, they were attacked by ghosts and almost fainted. It turns out that the residence is not clean. Right now, the 9th Imperial concubine is furious. The person said anxiously, What did you say? When Xiao Chen heard that Jing Yu had almost fainted, he immediately stood up. When he thought about how Jing Yu was pregnant and had encountered such a thing, he immediately became gloomy. This servant said, the 9th Imperial concubine is. When the person saw Xiao Chen's gloomy expression, he trembled and almost peed in his pants. Before he could finish speaking, he saw Xiao Chen rush out like a gust of wind. These damned people. Xiao Yuling was so angry that her face turned green. When she saw Xiao Chen run out, she frowned and said, Prepare the sedan. We are leaving the palace. What? Your Majesty is going out personally? When the head eunuch heard Xiao Yuling's words, his eyes widened and he asked, If we don't go personally, are we supposed to sit here and wait for Imperial Uncle to send back the heads of the Supreme Court and the Minister of Revenue? Xiao Yuling glared fiercely at the eunuch and said, Chapter 17:20. This servant will do it right away. The eunuch's body trembled violently when he heard this. He swallowed his saliva and hurriedly turned around to do it. The ninth emperor was really capable of doing such a thing. Xiao Chen and Xiao Yuling rushed over. As soon as they arrived at the entrance of the mansion, they heard a series of earth-shattering cries and shouts coming from inside. Listening to the cries and curses, it was simply a mess. Xiao Chen walked in with a frown. His eyes were filled with sternness. However, when he walked in and saw the situation inside, he was instantly stunned. The Minister of the Supreme Court and the Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, who were incomparably glorious in the imperial court, were now tied to a chair and being beaten. The sound of the paddles hitting them was extremely loud. "Do you know where you were wrong now?" The ninth imperial concubine, who was so frightened that she almost fainted, was holding a cup of tea and slowly drinking it. She looked very calm. "Ninth imperial concubine, please spare our lives. We won't dare to do it again." The two men howled loudly. Xiao Chen stood at the side and the corner of his mouth twitched violently. Just as Yin Xiao was thinking that it was funny, she turned around and suddenly saw Xiao Chen's figure. She immediately trembled in fear and hurriedly knelt down and shouted, "Greetings, ninth emperors." Instantly, everyone knelt down and a series of greetings could be heard. When Jingyu saw Xiao Chen, she immediately stood up and was shocked. Why was Xiao Chen here? "Xiao Chen." Jingyu called out silently. She had beaten up the officials of the imperial court. Would Xiao Chen scold her? Who would have thought that Xiao Chen would stare at Jingyu for a long time and then slowly ask, "Are you all right?" Jingyu was slightly taken aback. She then lowered her head and replied, "I'm fine. There's no need for you to deal with these people personally. Don't forget that you're pregnant." When Xiao Chen heard Jingyu's reply, he frowned in dissatisfaction and said, "If you scared this king's child, how will you be punished?" All right. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chen's words, she immediately pulled Xiao Chen's hand and said unhappily, "Aren't I fine? Our child is also here." Jingyu said as she pulled Xiao Chen's hand and placed it on her stomach. She blinked her starry eyes and looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu's appearance and his heart suddenly softened. He sighed helplessly and reached out to touch Jingyu's cheek and said, "You're really worrisome. What's going on? Where's 15? Xiao Chen looked around and didn't see 15. He suddenly frowned and asked, "Oh, 15. Jingyu pursed her lips slightly and said, "I asked 15 to catch the ghost." When Xiao Chen heard Jingyu's words, he suddenly frowned and looked at Jingyu strangely. "This is the haunted house?" Xiao Chen looked around and then his gaze fell on the two people tied to the chair. He waved his hand and said, "Put these two people down and tell this king what's going on. Ninth emperors, please spare our lives." No matter what, the first thing they said was definitely going to be begging for mercy. Chapter 1721. Xiao Chen looked at the two of them expressionlessly. He stared at them with his dark eyes and instantly silenced their pleas. He seemed to have read a message from Xiao Chen's eyes. If they said another word, they would be beheaded. This residence belonged to an official a few years ago. He seemed to have offended the second prince. Then, for some unknown reason, he was found guilty of corruption and his entire family was beheaded. Originally, everything would be fine after the cleanup, but who knew, this residence would start to have frequent incidents. He Ijo swallowed his saliva silently and said, "This lowly official found many Taoist priests to exorcise the ghosts. After that, there was a year of peace. This lowly official then reported this residence to the higher-ups and included it in the selection process. Who would have thought that this would happen again in the past 2 years?" He Ijo's eyes were filled with bitterness as he said, "If this matter was reported, this lowly official would not be able to keep my official position. Thus, this lowly official suppressed this matter. Originally, I thought that this person would be fine after moving in. Ninth emperors, please forgive this lowly official. This lowly official really didn't expect to offend the ninth imperial concubine." When He Ijo said this, he immediately howled with a face that was about to cry. Jingyu and Xiao Chen looked at each other after hearing this. Instantly, their eyes were filled with interest. This residence really had a lot of stories. However, Jingyu was interested in the second prince that He Ijo mentioned. Jing Yu was slightly stunned. This was the second prince, Xiao Jingran. When she suddenly heard this person's name, Jing Yu was dazed for a moment. She didn't know where Xiao Jingran had gone. It seemed that during the Tokyo coup, Jing Yu hadn't seen or heard any news about this person. Jing Yu frowned slightly and looked at Xiao Chen. Just as she was about to speak, she heard the words, "His Majesty has arrived." She immediately swallowed her words and stepped forward to greet him. Even Xiao Yuling was alarmed. It seemed that today's matter wasn't over yet. "Imperial uncle, Imperial aunt, please dispense with the formalities. We heard that Imperial aunt was frightened. Are you all right?" Xiao Yuling hurriedly stepped forward and asked. "Many thanks for your Majesty's concern. This lowly official is fine." Jing Yu silently took a step back and cursed Xiao Yuling in her heart. He was really an old fox. Wasn't he clearly trying to undermine her? However, since Xiao Yuling was the emperor and Miao Qiu's man, she didn't mind. She would just leave this matter to these men to deal with him. To her. This matter. She. To Miao. This matter. Your Majesty came at the right time. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and said, "These two people neglected their duties and were greedy for small gains. They didn't care about the important matter of selecting residences. They almost frightened this lowly official's concubine and the crown prince. Your Majesty, what do you think should be done?" Jing Yu's concession didn't mean that Xiao Chen would do the same. After hearing his words, He Yizhou and the Supreme Court Chancellor's faces instantly turned pale. What? There's actually such a thing. When Xiao Yuling heard Xiao Chen's words, his eyes were instantly filled with anger and he shouted coldly, 15 is back. Just as Xiao Yuling was about to say something, Jing Yu saw 15th Xing leaping down from the roof. He was holding a person in white clothes in his hand. The sight of him covered in blood was really frightening. Chapter 1722. Master. 15th Xing bowed respectfully towards Xiao Chen before greeting the emperor. Then, he said to the crowd, "This is the person who is playing tricks here." Aya. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with curiosity. She had always been skeptical about the existence of ghosts. If there really were ghosts, then she would be able to feast her eyes. However, if this was fake, then she would have to ponder deeply. Who was this person who had such great ability to actually dare to play tricks here? Your subordinate knocked her out. 15th Xing touched the tip of his nose and said, "I thought she was a ghost and did not control my strength well." When 15th Xing said this, he suddenly felt very shy. Jing Yu looked at 15th Xing and found it funny. A dignified shadow guard actually believed in ghosts. She didn't know what 15th Xing was thinking. Jing Yu found it very funny. However, she took a cup of tea from the side and splashed it on the woman's face. This woman's hair was disheveled and her body was covered in blood. If she appeared in the middle of the night, she could really scare people to death. "You're awake," Jing Yu said lightly. She watched as the woman trembled and opened her eyes. When she saw Jing Yu and Xiao Chen, then Emperor Xiao Yuling, she immediately shrank back and lowered her eyes. "Now, let's talk properly." Jing Yu narrowed her eyes and sized up the woman. Then she said, "Why are you playing tricks in this residence? Don't you know that this is the residence of the emperor? Or you?" Since Xiao Chen and Xiao Yuling did not open their mouths to ask, Jing Yu naturally asked herself. She looked at the woman and said calmly, "The Qin family died crying injustice. I can't accept this." When the woman heard Jing Yu's question, it was as if she had heard some unusually angry words. She glared at Jing Yu and the others and said, "The Qin family has served the imperial court and has never rebelled. However, because of one sentence, we have caused the tragedy of our family being exterminated. I can't accept this." The woman's eyes were filled with deep hatred. She glared at Xiao Yuling and said, "The old master of the Qin family has always protected the crown prince. I thought that after the crown prince ascended the throne, he would redress the injustice for the Qin family. However, I didn't expect that after the crown prince became the emperor, he completely forgot about the Qin family." As the woman spoke, her eyes were filled with tears. The tears on her face were stained red with some unknown substance. At first glance, One would think that she was shedding tears of blood. It was a horrifying sight to behold. There is no way to appeal. How can the Qin family rest in peace in the underworld? I can't accept this. The woman's face was filled with madness as she said, as long as the injustice of the Qin family is not redressed, how can we allow others to live in this residence? After the woman's words, Jing Yu and Xiao Chun fell silent. When they were in the imperial city, Jing Yu had never cared about the matters of the imperial palace. She knew nothing about the matters of the imperial court. Therefore, she did not have the slightest impression of the Qin family. However, Jing Yu did not know about it, but that did not mean that Xiao Chen and Xiao Yuling did not know. Xiao Chen turned his head to look at Xiao Yuling. The two of them looked at each other and immediately thought of the cause and effect of this matter. Back then, when the crown prince was weak and the second prince was strong, many of the officials were killed. The reason for their death was either because they stood on the wrong side or because they offended someone with a single sentence. Chapter 1723. The Qin family was the latter. During the battle, the position of the crown prince had always been a fleeting phenomenon, as if it could be abolished at any time. The second prince, Xiao Jingran, was so powerful and the crown prince was a sickly person. Qin Shi was the assistant minister of the imperial court and was famous for being impartial. At that time, the people in the imperial court were divided into the crown prince's faction and the second prince's faction. Qin Shi was the only one who had always stayed out of trouble. She couldn't remember clearly what kind of comments had been made in the imperial court. Some people had criticized the second prince, and because of this, the emperor was enraged. However, the emperor wasn't really angry. He was just putting on an act. However, because the second prince had lost his face, he flew into a rage out of humiliation and started to make things difficult for Qin Shi. However, Qin Shi was also a capable person. No matter how hard the second prince tried to make things difficult for him, he was able to stand firm. It was a pity that during this mission, Xiao Jingran took advantage of the opportunity to frame Qin Shi. Before the emperor's imperial edict had been issued, he had directly beheaded everyone in the Qin clan. Because of this, it caused a great commotion in the imperial court. Xiao Yuling felt that she had lost her loyalty and wanted to cry out for justice. However, she was angrily reprimanded by Xiao Jingran and was punished to kneel in the temple. Xiao Chen also said that a little impatience spoiled great plans. If he had stood out to speak for Qin Shi, Xiao Yuling's position as the crown prince would have been gone. Therefore, Xiao Yuling was just putting on an act. In the end, she didn't do anything and this matter passed muddle-headedly. She didn't expect that the Qin clan had descendants. Who are you in the Qin clan? Xiao Yuling had always been brooding over the Qin clan's matter. However, too many people had died because of it. If it wasn't for this sudden incident today, Xiao Yuling wouldn't have thought of this. I'm just a servant girl in the Qin clan. The woman said calmly, Master and Madam died because of me. I took the young master and escaped. However, the young master didn't suffer so much. He died of illness on the road and I buried him with my own hands. The Qin family is such a good family. Why did they have to suffer such injustice? I feel indignant on behalf of Master and Madam. Why is the heavenly Tao so unfair? The woman lay on the ground and cried bitterly. After hearing this, Jing Yu sighed deeply. The sky had never been fair. If Qin Shi had bowed his head a little back then, the Qin family would not have fallen into such a situation. Xiao Chen's eyes were calm as he said, their stubbornness has doomed the Qin family to an early demise. However, this king never expected that a servant girl from the Qin clan would be so protective of her master. You spent so many years helping the Qin clan redress their grievances. You are very good. Xiao stood with his hands behind his back and looked quietly at the woman prostrating on the ground as he spoke. Not bad. Xiao Yuling sighed deeply and said, I have always wanted to be a good emperor. Now it seems that there are still many things that I have not thought of. Your Majesty, have you thought of what to do? Xiao Chen turned his head and asked Xiao Yuling. Is Imperial Uncle thinking of the same thing as I? Xiao Yuling smiled and turned her head to look at Xiao Chen. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. There was a faint smile in their eyes. Jing Yu's heart trembled slightly when she saw the two of them like this. Chapter 1724. I will definitely redress the Qin family's grievances. However, you have been playing tricks and disturbing the hearts of the people. You will still have to bear the consequences. Xiao Yuling looked at the woman quietly and said, Your Majesty is wise. The woman bowed with a face full of joy and said, After I personally witnessed the Qin family's grievances being redressed, I will definitely atone for my sins with my life. You can avoid death, but you cannot escape punishment. Let's not talk about your crimes for now. Xiao Yuling waved her hand slightly and turned to look at He Zhou and the Supreme Court Chancellor. She said, The two of you, tell me, what crimes do I want to punish you for? Your Majesty, please spare us. The two of them were originally listening attentively. Suddenly, Xiao Yuling's tone changed and the butcher's knife was once again turned to them. Instantly, they wailed in anguish. He Zhou will be demoted to half of his position. The Supreme Court Chancellor will temporarily take back his authority. The two of you can go back after receiving 20 beatings. The moment Xiao Yuling finished speaking, the two of them started wailing. However, they were secretly rejoicing in their hearts. Fortunately, they did not lose their official position. Their heads were still intact. What happened today spread throughout the imperial city in an instant. Xiao Yuling was probably really provoked by this incident. She ordered the people of the Ministry of Justice to start overturning the case. All the old matters were dug up. One case after another was overturned. The imperial city was filled with cheers for Xiao Yuling, shouting that she was a good emperor. Jing Yu, who was in the prince's residence, heard such words. Instantly, her eyes were filled with joy. Xiao Yuling was not stupid. After this series of events, Xing Heir's residence was also settled. Jing Yu called for people to renovate the residence. The things that needed to be added or purchased were all done by her personally. It had to be said that the people in the prince's residence were very efficient. Jing Yu was very satisfied with this. Your Majesty, quickly rest. These days, Yin Xiao was very busy. Seeing Jing Yu like this, Yin Xiao's heart ached. At this moment, Jing Yu was leaning on the soft couch and taking a nap. Yin Xiao's heart ached as she spoke. Jing Yu turned her head slightly and saw Yin Xiao's distressed expression. She smiled helplessly. Such a small matter can tire me out? Jing Yu looked at Yin Xiao and said, I'm fine. You don't have to worry. The child in my stomach is fine too. Imperial concubine is such a good person. Imperial concubine is so concerned about Lord Xing Heir's marriage. Yin Xiao sighed. Although Xing Heir was Xiao Chen's favorite, he was still a shadow guard. It was really not easy for Jing Yu to go to such lengths for Xing Heir. Yin Xiao said with a sigh. Jing Yu's lips curled up slightly as she said, Second Xing has saved me and Ninth Royal Uncle countless times in times of danger. No matter what the situation is, he never leaves and serves his master with such loyalty. Now, he is marrying my good sister. No matter what, I should do all this. Jing Yu said calmly, This is what Xing Heir deserves. Xing Heir had just walked to the door of Jing Yu's room when he heard these words. Instantly, he froze on the spot. His eyes were filled with shock. He stood quietly in front of the door for a long time without moving. The trembling of his heart was so clear and distinct. Chapter 1725. It was as if he had returned to the time when he was in that small town by the border and saw that strange woman. She could make a wild horse listen to her and angrily point at the portrait pasted on the notice board and ask him, which part of this portrait looks like her? He still remembered that when he said it looked like her, she said with disdain, You're blind. Xing Heir's lips curled into a faint smile. At that time, he did not treat her as a master that he had to protect. After that, he even blamed her in his heart and felt pity for his master for taking a fancy to such a woman. Now that he thought about it, he was full of joy. Xing Heir, are you outside? Jing Yu's voice rang out from inside. Second interrogation officer retracted that distant memory, stood up straight and answered loudly, then lifted his feet and walked into the room. Greetings, madam. Xing Er bowed respectfully. Why are you still a subordinate? Jing Yu looked at Xing Er and smiled. Now you are the northern general. You can't call yourself a subordinate anymore. I am no longer your madam. Xing Er frowned slightly. Then, as if he was unwilling, he called out again, Greetings, Imperial Concubine. That's right. Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. She looked Xing Er up and down. Now Xing Er was not wearing the secret guard's uniform. Looking at the official's uniform, it was true that the clothes made the man and the saddle made the horse. Xing Er's clothes were perfect for him. Jing Yu's eyes were full of smiles. Xing Er lowered his head under Jing Yu's gaze. What are you here for today? Jing Yu looked at Xing Er and asked. I am here to thank Imperial Concubine for choosing this mansion. I like it very much. Xing Er said quietly. Did Xiao Chen ask you to come? Jing Yu heard Xing Er's words and found it funny. She looked at Xing Er and said, All right, I know you are a new official. Now is an important time. Don't waste your time with me. I will arrange your marriage for you. When the time comes, you can wait to get a beauty. Jing Yu said faintly. The smile in her eyes made Xing Er blush silently. Thank you, Imperial Concubine. Xing Er thanked her again. Jing Yu watched Xing Er leave and sighed in her heart. Xing Er was too similar to Xiao Chen. It was just that Xiao Chen was cold on the outside but passionate on the inside. Looking at Xing Er, she was really curious how the two Shangguan Linglan, who were both ice and fire, could get along with each other. Who said that fire and water were incompatible? Looking at it now, it seemed like they were getting along well. Jing Yu narrowed her eyes and rested on the soft couch. Xiao Chen had been very busy these few days. The things he was busy with were naturally the unjust cases. Jing Yu didn't ask about it. Yin Xiao, how is the restaurant I asked you to find? Jing Yu narrowed her eyes and asked. When Yin Xiao heard Jing Yu's question, she was shocked and asked, Imperial Concubine, are you not holding a banquet at You Have Money restaurant? Do you want to find another one? Jing Yu's eyes were filled with a strange look. Then, as if she thought of something, she frowned slightly and said, You Have Money is opening for business? Shen Yuqing is back? Yes. Does Imperial Concubine not know? Yin Xiao nodded and said. Chapter 1726. So you're really back. Jing Yu's eyes lit up as she said, Let's go to the restaurant to take a look. Yin Xiao's eyes revealed a surprised expression as she looked at Jing Yu and asked. Naturally, Jing Yu slowly nodded. Yin Xiao's eyes were filled with surprise. Looking at Jing Yu's expression, she didn't seem to be joking. There were people coming and going on the streets. Jing Yu looked at the scenery in front of her and slightly narrowed her eyes. Looking at these familiar streets, she seemed to recall the time when she went to school to learn etiquette and passed by these places. In the past, she often got lost on these streets. This street has been rebuilt? Jing Yu slightly frowned and asked. Yes, the walls on both sides of the street were destroyed. Yin Xiao said very respectfully. No wonder it looks a lot more spacious. Jing Yu slightly nodded and lowered the curtain. She quietly sat in the carriage and moved forward. When they reached the end of the street, Jing Yu got off the carriage. There are so many people in front. Let's walk. Jing Yu was dressed gorgeously and wore a gauze hat. Standing on the street, she was quite eye-catching. Yin Xiao didn't agree with Jing Yu walking. However, Jing Yu was so insistent that Yin Xiao naturally couldn't say anything. She could only support Jing Yu properly and let people open a path in front of her. She couldn't let anyone get close to Jing Yu. Jing Yu looked at Yin Xiao's cautious appearance and smiled helplessly, but let her go. These little toys are quite good. When the child is born, he can play with them. You two go and choose some exquisite ones. Jing Yu said to the servants behind her. This servant will go right away. The two servants nodded and went to choose. When they passed by the tailor's shop, Jing Yu suddenly thought of Little Potato. She frowned slightly and said, Since this restaurant is open, then is Ni Chang Yuan open as well? Replying to the Imperial Concubine, They are all open for business. Yin Xiao nodded and said, That's great. Let's go to the restaurant first, and then we'll go to Anai Changyuan to make some clothes for the child. Jingyu raised her eyebrows and said, "We don't know the gender of the child in her belly, but we can make little potatoes clothes first." "Yes," Yin Xiao replied. Jingyu walked forward with light steps. She would order people to buy whatever she saw. Jingyu narrowed her eyes slightly. As she walked forward, she saw the restaurant that appeared in front of everyone's eyes in the distance. "Come if you have money." The three gilded words were so hilarious. She didn't know what she was thinking at that time. Why did she give it such a name? But she really liked it. The corners of Jingyu's lips curled up slightly. She stood leisurely in front of the restaurant and saw the maids standing at the side of the restaurant. She watched as the maids welcomed the guests in with appropriate smiles. Suddenly, Jingyu's eyes became a little dazed. It was as if she had returned to the modern era. Jingyu lowered her head slightly. Looking at the ancient surroundings, Jingyu smiled faintly. How could she be in the modern era? Jingyu came back to her senses and walked toward the restaurant. The people standing at the door saw Jingyu and her group. Looking at their clothes, they knew that they weren't ordinary people. They immediately went forward to welcome Jingyu in. Chapter 1727. However, just as Jingyu entered the restaurant, she heard a commotion behind her. "Stop! You can't go in." This voice attracted Jingyu's attention. She couldn't help but wonder who she had stopped. Jingyu turned around and saw the person who had been stopped by a maid at the entrance. The person who had been stopped was an old man. He had a flagon of wine hanging from his waist and a walking stick in his hand. His clothes looked very tattered. At this moment, he was stopped by someone and was so angry that his face and neck were red. "Little girl, what right do you have to stop me from going in? This restaurant is a place to eat. Why can't I go in?" The old man seemed to be very angry as he glared at the maid angrily. The commotion attracted everyone's attention. "Why don't you take a look at where you are? How can someone like you come in as you please?" The maid looked at the old man with disdain in her eyes. She took a step back and wrinkled her nose as if she was disgusted with the old man. What a joke! The old man was infuriated. He looked at his clothes and said, "Could it be that you're rejecting me just because of my clothes? Where did this old man think this place was? I think it's just your restaurant that's taking advantage of its power to bully others." What a snob! The old man was so angry that he stomped his feet. Where did this rude person come from? Beat him out. The maid's eyes were full of anger. The thugs at the side rubbed their fists and were about to step forward. Jingyu's eyebrows jumped as she watched from the side. When she saw this scene, she couldn't take it anymore. Her eyes were full of anger as she shouted. The crowd was full of pointing fingers. When Jingyu shouted, everyone's eyes turned to Jingyu. Seeing Jingyu's clothes and the posture of the people behind her, they knew that Jingyu was definitely not an ordinary person. Furthermore, Jingyu's words made everyone feel like they were watching a show. "Madam, this is a matter of our restaurant. Please don't interfere." When the maid saw that her order had been interrupted, she immediately felt uncomfortable. Although Jingyu was dressed in gorgeous clothes, she didn't know what to do. However, there was a thought in his heart. No matter how well he dressed, he couldn't be more impressive than the 9 emperors. This was the 9th emperor. Therefore, he naturally wouldn't be polite with his words. When Jingyu heard the woman's words, a faint smile appeared in her eyes. She was so angry that she laughed. Everyone was wondering how Jingyu would react. Unexpectedly, Jingyu stared at the woman for a long time. Then, under everyone's gaze, she raised her hand and slapped the woman. The crisp sound of the slap caused the whispering crowd to fall into a strange silence. "How dare you!" The maidservant was also stunned by the slap. When she reacted, she felt incomparably ashamed and angry. She opened her mouth to speak, but Jingyu swung her hand and slapped her again. The maidservant was furious. As an errand boy in this restaurant, who didn't treat him politely when they came in? When had he ever been slapped? "Yes, I slapped you. So what?" Jingyu's cold voice rang out. The woman covered her face and trembled with anger. Then she screamed like a madwoman, Someone come quickly. Throw them out. Chapter 1728. Let's see who dares to move. Jing Yu's imposing voice rang out. Those large hands stiffened and stood rooted to the ground, not daring to move an inch. Today, I've seen for myself that this restaurant was ruined by rats like you. Jing Yu took a deep breath and slowly turned her head to look at the completely dumbfounded shopkeeper. She said, "Go get Xin Yuqing for me. This will take care of." The shopkeeper was slightly taken aback when he heard Jing Yu's words. Just as he was about to speak, Jing Yu suddenly turned her head and reached out to take off the veil on her head. "Do you want to walk and call him out? Or do you want this imperial concubine to break your legs and make you crawl?" A pair of golden green eyes appeared in front of everyone. That beautiful face that everyone was familiar with was revealed before everyone's eyes. When the shopkeeper saw Jing Yu's face, he was so shocked that he almost bit his tongue off. Under the gaze of that pair of demonic eyes, he practically crawled and rolled into the back room. The moment that arrogant woman saw Jing Yu's pair of demonic eyes, her eyes widened as if she had seen a ghost. Her face turned pale and her knees gave way. She sat on the ground in a daze, completely speechless. At this moment, the crowd was dead silent. Their bodies trembled violently as they looked at Jing Yu's pair of demonic eyes. They never imagined that this woman who casually walked in would actually be the owner of this restaurant. This lowly one, Xin Yuqing, greets the owner. Xin Yuqing rushed out as fast as he could. After not seeing him for a few years, Xin Yuqing had aged a lot. The moment he saw Jing Yu, he almost knelt down with tears streaming down his face. Jing Yu looked at Xin Yuqing, who was kneeling in front of her. She couldn't associate him with the person who wanted to sell the restaurant to make a living. "Uncle Shen, do you still remember what I said when I handed this restaurant over to you?" Jing Yu pursed her lips tightly and looked at Xin Yuqing as she asked calmly. "How could this lowly one dare to forget?" Shen Yuqing said in a trembling voice. The owner said that this restaurant was the result of the owner's painstaking efforts. She also said that this restaurant must be protected no matter what. She also said that she shouldn't doubt the people she used. The people she used should be carefully selected. That's right. Jing Yu nodded her head in satisfaction. "Now, tell me, did you remember what I said?" "This lowly one remembers." Shen Yuqing pursed his lips and said, "This lowly one was in a rush to open. I don't care how this restaurant makes money." Jing Yu looked at Shen Yuqing calmly and said, "I'd rather you prepare for half a year before opening. I don't want to see a person like this standing here to welcome guests when you open. Honor, please forgive me." Shen Yuqing's eyes were filled with fear as he bowed and apologized. "Get up," Jing Yu said calmly and turned to look at the woman. Her golden green eyes narrowed coldly as she said, "Do you think you're superior just because you're standing in front of this restaurant? Tell this imperial concubine, what right do you have to be so arrogant?" Jing Yu looked coldly at the woman sitting on the ground and said, "Remember, this restaurant is mine, not yours. You're just a worker here." Chapter 1729. They are the customers, the masters you have to serve. Regardless of whether you are dressed lavishly or in rags, since you have decided to work here, you should be prepared to lower yourself. With your appearance, no matter where you go, you will be disgusting. Jing Yu's words were not polite at all. The woman did not dare to say a word after being insulted by Jing Yu. Jing Yu slowly lowered her eyes and said, "Chase her out and spread the news about this imperial concubine. No matter which house or restaurant she is in, if they dare to take her in, they will be going against the 9th emperors and the Wang family. If this imperial concubine finds out, I will not let them off easily." After Jing Yu finished speaking, everyone had the same thought. They wanted to stay away from this woman. If they offended the 9th emperors, they would be in big trouble. "Dear customer," Jing Yu then turned to the old man at the side and said, "This time, it's the people in my shop who offended the customer. I've already disciplined them. I guarantee that such a thing won't happen again in the future. Please forgive me. Dear customer, you are free of charge today in this restaurant. Would it be possible for you to have a seat on my face?" Jing Yu bowed politely to the elderly man. As the 9th imperial concubine, she was not even this courteous to the emperor. However, he was now being so polite to an old man in ragged clothes. The crowd of spectators nodded their heads when they saw this scene. Diagonally across from the restaurant, a green figure saw this scene from the top of a certain restaurant. Then, she chuckled and hugged the child in her arms tighter. She said calmly, "So this is the imperial concubine with different pupils. Not bad at all." This farce instantly spread throughout the imperial city. Jing Yu's clean and sharp way of doing things made everyone gasp in amazement. Those who saw it described it vividly. Jing Yu only found out about it later. In the elegant room of the restaurant, it was clear that someone often came here to clean it. Everything was placed neatly. It hadn't changed at all since Jing Yu left. The corners of Jing Yu's mouth curled up slightly when she saw this scene. "After standing for so long, my legs are sore." She was pregnant. Why did her body become so delicate? Jing Yu lay on the soft couch. After resting for a while, Yin Xiao obediently went forward and helped massage Jing Yu's arms and legs. Jing Yu then felt more comfortable. When Jing Yu was almost done resting, Xing Wu's voice came from outside, saying that Xin Yuqing wanted to see Jing Yu. "Let him in." Jing Yu waved her hand slightly at Yin Xiao. Then she sat up straight and saw Xin Yuqing walk in. Shen Yuqing knew that he had done something wrong. The moment he entered, he knelt down and bowed. "Uncle Shen, have a seat." Jing Yu looked at the few strands of white hair on Shen Yuqing's head. She sighed slightly and asked Yin Xiao to pour tea for him. "I am indeed angry about today's matter." Jing Yu was silent for a moment before speaking. "I was negligent," Shen Yuqing said, and was about to kneel again. Jing Yu raised her hand slightly and said, "I know you were happy for a moment. It was not easy for this restaurant to be able to reopen and survive until now." "Yes," Uncle Shen said with a sigh. "I thought I would never see boss again." Chapter 1730. Ha! Jing Yu chuckled and said, "The incident with this restaurant is also telling us that now that the restaurant is getting bigger, it's inevitable that there will be parasites. But I don't want to see this kind of thing happen again. This incident is also a reminder to all of you. Even if it breaks through the sky, this restaurant is still just a restaurant." Jing Yu lowered her head and said, "He has nothing to do with any power. You have to be careful in the future." "Yes, this lowly one understands." Shen Yuqing understood Jing Yu's meaning very well. She was probably influenced by him. Back then, this restaurant had experienced so many setbacks before it opened. Shen Yuqing often praised Jing Yu. Now that the 9 emperors' power had grown, if he continued to praise her, it would be counterproductive. Shen Yuqing didn't think of this, which led to this situation. Fortunately, Jing Yu's actions today were seen by all the subordinates in the restaurant. It also let others know of Jing Yu's attitude and the restaurant's attitude. This was a good thing. "There's one more thing." Jing Yu looked at Shen Yuqing and said, "On the 18th of July, I want to hold a big banquet in our restaurant. It's the wedding of the Jinyuan general and Miss Shangguan. You have to prepare 2 days in advance. I want this wedding banquet to be the most extravagant." "Do you understand what I mean?" Jing Yu looked at Shen Yuqing and said, "Yes, I understand." Shen Yuqing nodded slowly and said, "When I heard about the wedding of the Jinyuan general and Miss Shangguan, I knew that boss would definitely come. I just didn't expect boss to come so quickly. If I came late, who knows what you would have done." Jing Yu looked at Shen Yuqing helplessly. She still spoke in a reproachful tone, but the anger in her heart had dissipated. "Boss, please calm down. I will definitely arrange the marriage between the Jinyuan general and Miss Shangguan well," Shen Yuqing said with a smile. Jing Yu nodded in satisfaction and said, "About the dishes, please take good care of them. Go and call the chef over. I'll give him a big dish as the main course of the wedding banquet. As for the number of tables needed, I'll send someone over to inform you in a few days." Shen Yuqing nodded repeatedly. "When the time comes, this restaurant definitely won't be able to accommodate all of us. Tear down the side door of the restaurant and place more tables and chairs outside. We'll take over the entire street outside. Jing Yu supported her head and said, "This time, we have to be arrogant." "Yes, I understand." Shen Yuqing nodded repeatedly. Just by listening to Jing Yu's words, he could already imagine what a grand occasion it would be. During this period of time, you should hurry up and renovate this restaurant. When the time comes, the people from the northern pastoral will also come. There's no need to renovate it too much. What needs to be renovated, what needs to be changed, change what needs to be changed. Those decorations, calligraphy, and paintings should all be changed. Change the colors of those decorations and the layout can be moved slightly to make it seem like there's a difference. However, if you look closely, you won't see any changes. Take good care of it. When everything is ready, I'll take a look at the dishes and your decorations. Jing Yu said everything she wanted to say. Shen Yuqing nodded repeatedly on the side. Jing Yu then said a few things to take note of, as well as etiquette for the day, as well as clothing matters. After that, everything was settled. Chapter 1731. Jing Yu was extremely tired after this conversation. She originally wanted to go to Nai Chong Court, but now Jing Yu wanted nothing more than to immediately fall asleep on the bed. How could she be in the mood to choose clothes? Enduring her tiredness, Jing Yu got up to leave after teaching him how to make the dishes. "Madam, Master's carriage is waiting outside." Jing Yu had just stepped out of the private room when she heard 15th Xing's words. She was slightly taken aback and asked curiously, "Xiao Qin is here?" "Yes, Master has been here for a while. I saw that Madam was busy, so I didn't disturb you." 15th Xing nodded slowly. "You're really considerate." Jing Yu smiled at 15th Xing and said, "Let's go, let's not make Xiao Qin wait too long." When Jing Yu walked out of the inn, she saw the black carriage. Her lips curled into a faint smile and even her heart warmed. She let Yin Xiao help her into the carriage and saw Xiao Qin sitting in the carriage, looking at some documents in his hands. "Finished?" Xiao Qin put the documents in his hands aside and reached out to hold Jing Yu's hand. "Yes, I'm done." Jing Yu leaned into Xiao Qin's arms and sighed comfortably, "I'm so tired. Quickly massage my waist, it's so sore." "Ok." Xiao Qin responded. He supported Jing Yu with one hand and massaged Jing Yu's waist with the other. He said unhappily, "You're pregnant, you should let the servants do these things. Why do you have to run around by yourself? There's nothing to do at home anyway. It's good for the child to come out more often." This massage by Xiao Qin was very comfortable. Jing Yu mumbled in response and buried her head in Xiao Qin's arms. Smelling the familiar scent on Xiao Qin, she fell asleep. Xiao Qin looked at the person in his arms and frowned slightly. However, when he looked at Jing Yu's eyes, he instantly felt his entire body soften. He reached out to cover Jing Yu with a blanket and then lowered his head indifferently. He tightened his grip on Jing Yu and adjusted himself to a comfortable position. Then he leisurely walked towards the prince's mansion. The carriage of the 9 emperors left the restaurant. On the opposite side of the restaurant, a green figure quietly watched this scene. The child in her arms seemed to babble twice, and then there was a knock on the door. "Come in." A very indifferent voice sounded and a figure flashed in. The old man in tattered clothes stood in front of the man and bowed slightly. "Young master, this old servant has returned." Wasn't this old man in tattered clothes the same old man who had been stopped at the entrance of the restaurant? "Why haven't you changed your clothes yet?" The man seemed very displeased. "Don't smoke the child. I don't know where you found this old fellow." As the man spoke, he hugged the child in his arms a little tighter. "Young master, this old servant's acting just now was not bad, right?" The old man chuckled as if he didn't care at all. "Terrible," the man said without any trace of politeness. "However, this 9th imperial concubine's performance really surprised me. Also, that pair of different colored eyes are really beautiful. Young master is still so merciless." The old man seemed very unhappy that he wasn't praised. He slightly lowered his head and said, "However, this dish made by this imperial concubine is really delicious." This old servant almost forgot to come out. Chapter 1732. You disrespectful old man. Quickly go and clean yourself up. That man said angrily. That slightly tilted face was so handsome and beautiful. Only then did the old man leave resentfully. The person hiding in the darkness had a faint smile on his face. When Jingyu woke up again, the sky outside was already pitch black. Jingyu was also sleeping on her own bed. Imperial concubine, you're awake? Yin Xiao's voice came from outside the tent. Come in. Jingyu lifted the blanket and sat up. The lights in the room were also lit. Yin Xiao walked in and helped Jingyu put on her shoes as she said, Imperial Uncle's prediction was really accurate. He asked this servant to come and wait. Imperial concubine, you will definitely wake up. Fortune teller. Jingyu scolded with a smile and said, Where is Xiao Chen? Imperial Uncle still has official business to attend to. He is in the study room now. Imperial Uncle has prepared the meal and asked Imperial Concubine to eat first. Imperial Uncle also said that if Imperial Concubine can't sleep, you can go to the study room to accompany the 9th Emperors. Yin Xiao said one thing at a time. The last sentence wasn't said by Imperial Uncle, but by you, right? Jingyu glared at Yin Xiao and said, Imperial Concubine, you are really smart. Yin Xiao said with a slightly red face. Go and bring the meal to the study room. I will go and eat with Xiao Chen. Jingyu stood up and looked at the clothes she had put on. She said, He is attending to official business, so he is probably hungry. Yes, this servant will go and do it right away. Yin Xiao replied happily and turned around to do it. Jingyu looked at Yin Xiao's appearance and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. These peaceful days were really comfortable. When Jingyu finished tidying up and came to the study room, she happened to see the person who brought the meal over. After putting down the food, he left. Xiao Chen. Jingyu called out. Xiao Chen turned around and looked at Jingyu curiously. When did you become so gentle and considerate? You even know to come and eat with me? Hey, what do you mean? Jingyu glared at Xiao Chen with dissatisfaction and said, Are you saying that I'm not gentle and considerate enough? I wouldn't dare. Xiao Chen reached out and pulled Jingyu into his arms. With a faint smile in his eyes, he said, I just saw how considerate you are and felt happy. That's why I asked casually. Then you'd better put away your joy quickly. Jingyu reached out and pushed Xiao Chen away slightly. She said with disdain, I didn't want to come. If Yin Xiao didn't remind me, I wouldn't have thought of you. Jingyu said as she pulled Xiao Chen's hand away and sat to the side to eat. When Xiao Chen saw Jingyu acting like this, he sighed deeply in his heart. Why did I bring this up for no reason? This pregnant woman was definitely not to be trifled with. Xiao Chen took a deep breath and walked to Jingyu's side. He sat down and said gently, No matter what, I'm very happy that you're here. Really? Jingyu was eating when she heard Xiao Chen's words. She turned to look at Xiao Chen suspiciously and asked. Of course it's true. Xiao Chen nodded firmly. He reached out and picked up some food for Jingyu and said, This tastes really good. Try it. Feed me, Jingyu ordered Xiao Chen around with satisfaction. Xiao Chen was also happy to be ordered around by Jingyu. When they were almost done eating, he called someone over to clean up the food. Jingyu leaned against Xiao Chen on the soft couch for a long time. Chapter 1733. This was the study room. Without Xiao Chen's permission, no one could enter. Just like now, Jingyu could only come out by herself. Yin Xiao and the rest could not enter. Imperial concubine, you're awake? When Yin Xiao saw the door open, she hurriedly put the veil on Jingyu's head. Jingyu did not mind at first, but Yin Xiao was determined not to let Jingyu take it off. Jingyu could only let her be. After washing up properly in the room, she put away the gauze hat. Jingyu walked around the courtyard casually. Then, she seemed to have thought of something and asked someone to bring a charcoal pencil. Jingyu had lived in the prince's residence for a long time. The servants naturally knew that she did not need a brush but had a charcoal pencil. Now that they heard that Jingyu wanted to draw something, they naturally prepared a good charcoal pencil for Jingyu to use. It's so comfortable to have someone to serve me. Jingyu looked at the charcoal pencil that had been prepared properly by the side and a faint smile appeared in her eyes. She sighed and said. When Yin Xiao heard Jing Yu's words, her heart ached. It was as if she could see how much suffering Jing Yu had suffered outside. Jing Yu saw Yin Xiao's gaze and was speechless. She quickly said, Yin Xiao, don't look at me like that. I don't have any other intentions. This servant only feels sorry for imperial concubine. You have suffered so much. Yin Xiao looked at Jing Yu and said with heartache. Miss, when did I say that the outside world is not good? Jing Yu spread out the paper and said calmly, I've never suffered. It's just that the comfort of the imperial city makes me a little uncomfortable. Imperial concubine, don't tell me you still want to leave? When Yin Xiao heard Jing Yu's words, her eyes widened in shock. What nonsense are you talking about? Jing Yu found it funny and said, All right, go outside and serve me. Yes. Yin Xiao responded and silently walked to the back. She reached out and closed the door. Jing Yu then slowly sat down. She held the charcoal pencil in her hand and narrowed her eyes. She seemed to be thinking about what to draw. After a moment of silence, she slowly drew an exquisite picture on the paper. It was a small piece of clothing. There were even some descriptions on the clothing. Without looking, it was obvious that it was a child's clothing. Jing Yu drew very seriously. She narrowed her eyes and thought. She could not draw her own clothing, but she could draw it. She had never seen it. Yin Xiao took a look and then retracted her gaze. She silently put down the things and went out. I really want to know how Xiao Chen will look in a suit. Jing Yu looked at the suits on the table with satisfaction. One was big, one was small, and the other was a wedding dress on a piece of paper. This was probably a dream that Jing Yu always had in her heart. Jing Yu did not know if it could be realized with the materials from the ancient times. Jing Yu was not in a hurry. She could wait. Jing Yu thought of it now, so she drew it. Looking at the suit and wedding dress in front of her, Jing Yu's eyes were filled with a faint smile. She really wanted to know how she would look when she stood next to Xiao Chen in a wedding dress. Chapter 1734. Then, there would be 2 children, one boy and one girl, standing beside them. Just thinking about that scene made her feel that it was incomparably adorable. However, would the baby in her stomach be a girl? Jing Yu lowered her head slightly and looked at her stomach. Her stomach hadn't shown how big it was yet. Jing Yu thought for a moment and put away the suit and wedding dress that she had drawn. Then, she began to draw by the side. When the sun was setting, Jing Yu asked someone to come in and clean up the table. Then, she washed her hands. Just as she was thinking about something, she heard the sound of people paying respects outside the door. Xiao Chen had returned. You're back so early today? Jing Yu sat up straight. Seeing that Xiao Chen had returned, a faint smile appeared in her eyes as she said with her eyebrows curved. I missed you, so I came back. Xiao Chen responded and reached out to take a sip of the tea that Jing Yu had poured for him. After taking a sip, he heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at Xiao Chen's appearance, he must have been very busy these past few days. Are you tired? Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. She reached out to massage Xiao Chen's shoulders and said, I'll let you experience my gentle and virtuous side. When Xiao Chen heard Jing Yu's words, he instantly laughed out loud. He reached out to hug Jing Yu's waist and bent down to place his ear on Jing Yu's stomach. He said, I'll let you hear if our child was obedient today. He's more obedient than you. Jing Yu reached out to hug Xiao Chen's head and said with a smile. Let me tell you a piece of good news. Xiao Chen straightened up and hugged Jing Yu in his arms. He said happily, there's news about Little Potato. It was sent by someone from Miracle Physician Valley. The person who saved Little Potato should be the Valley Master of Miracle Physician Valley. Really? Jing Yu happily held Xiao Chen's head and said, then where is the Valley Master of the Miracle Medical Valley? Is Little Potato all right? The whereabouts of the Valley Master of Miracle Medical Valley have always been uncertain. If he hides from us, we won't be able to find him. You don't have to worry too much. The medical skills of the Valley Master of Miracle Medical Valley are much better than that of Qing Ji's master. Little Potato will definitely be fine. Since he said that he would come back after a year, We will wait for a year. Xiao Chen slowly clenched his fists and said, if he doesn't return it in a year, I'll attack Miracle Medical Valley. I'd like to see if he still wants the lives of the people in his valley. Jing Yu frowned when she heard Xiao Chen's words. Jing Yu knew very well that this wasn't the time for her to mess around. The Valley Master of Miracle Medical Valley had saved Little Potato's life. Even if she missed her son dearly, she couldn't ignore the person who saved her child's life. Xiao Chen's suggestion was the worst solution. Jing Yu didn't want to go that far. Okay. Jing Yu took a deep breath and said, I'll wait. When Little Potato comes back, I'll definitely beat up the Valley Master of Miracle Medical Valley. Jing Yu said angrily. Xiao Chen gently hugged Jing Yu and said, let your husband do this kind of rough work. My wife can just watch from the side. Okay. Jing Yu smiled when she heard Xiao Chen's words. She hugged Jing Yu's neck and whispered to her. Chapter 1735. When it was time for dinner, Jing Yu and Xiao Chen went to the study together after dinner. Jing Yu was addicted to reading stories, and Xiao Chen was happy to let Jing Yu accompany him. Every time he finished his work, he could look up and see the woman he loved reading a book. Xiao Chen was intoxicated by the feeling of bliss and contentment. Late at night, Xiao Chen heard Jing Yu yawning. Without thinking, he put away the paper and brush in his hands and led Jing Yu back to the room to rest. They loved this kind of day. Xiao Chen was very satisfied, and Jing Yu also felt very peaceful. In the morning, Xiao Chen left. Jing Yu was trimming the branches and leaves of the flowers and plants. She narrowed her eyes slightly, and under the sunlight, they were so dazzling. Imperial concubine, eldest young master requests an audience. Just as Jing Yu was pruning vigorously, she heard a call from outside. Who else could the eldest young master that the manservant mentioned be? Naturally, it was Xiao Bai. Jing Yu smiled and put down the scissors in her hand. Go and invite him in, Jing Yu said. From afar, she saw Xiao Bai walking in with steady steps. Mother! Xiao Bai called out happily and quickly walked towards Jing Yu. You're willing to come back from the army? Jing Yu looked at Xiao Bai's tanned appearance and then looked at Xiao Bai's clothes. Her eyes were tinged with a faint smile as she said calmly. Since Xiao Bai came back with her, he immersed himself in the army camp. Jing Lang went to Yangzhou to welcome Feng Ju, and would probably come to the capital in a few days. How is it? Is it good in the army? Jing Yu walked into the room and placed pastries and tea on the table. Then she asked, the training was very tiring. Did you get hurt? Mother, I've grown up. This injury is nothing to me. Xiao Bai drank the tea and said happily, I like the days in the army. If father didn't call me back, I would have stayed in the army until Aunt Lan's wedding. Jing Yu glared at Xiao Bai and said, it's good that you're back, but why did Xiao Chen summon you back? My father said he wanted me to learn from him about the royal court and understand the affairs of the royal court. Xiao Bai pursed his lips and said, my father said it would be good for me to learn. Since it's Xiao Chen who said it, you should go and learn it well. Jing Yu also nodded slightly. Although she didn't know why Xiao Chen wanted Xiao Bai to learn, since it was Xiao Chen's order, it was fine. Mother, is the little sister very obedient? Xiao Bai blinked his eyes and looked at Jing Yu's stomach with joy as he asked. Little sister? Jing Yu was stunned, then she smiled and said happily, do you also want a little sister? Yes, I want a little sister, like mother. Xiao Bai looked up at Jing Yu and said happily. Mother also wants a girl, but I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. Jing Yu looked at her stomach and frowned slightly. Then she said, but whether it's a boy or a girl, we all like it. Jing Yu and Xiao Bai laughed and talked for a long time in the room. When the beautiful maids outside saw this scene, the corners of their mouths curled up slightly in envy. Chapter 1736. Jing Yu and Xiao Bai chatted for a long time until someone called for Xiao Chen. Only then did Xiao Bai leave. Jing Yu looked at Xiao Bai's departing figure. His small figure was upright, just like Xiao Chen. Imperial concubine is so good to eldest young master, as if he's your own. Yin Xiao helped Jing Yu sit down and sighed. To me, he is my own child. Jing Yu frowned slightly and looked at Yin Xiao. In the future, eldest young master will be the eldest young master of our prince's residence. His surname is Xiao. If you dare to disrespect him, I won't let you off easily. Imperial concubine, please forgive us. This servant doesn't dare. After Jing Yu said this, everyone immediately knelt down, their eyes filled with fear. Jing Yu looked at everyone kneeling on the ground and calmly turned her head. You can all leave. Everyone complied and carefully retreated. When Jing Yu saw Xiao Chen, it was already night time. Why are you back so late? Jing Yu rubbed her head and asked Xiao Chen. I had some matters to take care of and lost track of time. Xiao Chen sat down beside Jing Yu and said, I heard that you gave Xiao Bai Shu Wei today? Could it be that she had sensed my thoughts? Why are you supporting me like this? That's what I wanted to ask you as well. Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen curiously and asked, why did you summon Xiao Bai back? You even allowed him to participate in court matters. What are your plans? Didn't you already guess? Xiao Chen looked calmly at Jing Yu and said, I want you to tell me yourself. Xiao Chen hugged Jing Yu helplessly and said, I don't want our child to fight with these people. However, I have no choice but to allow the prince's residence to stand here and balance the Tokyo's authority. So you want to groom Xiao Bai to be your successor? Jing Yu gritted her teeth and continued Xiao Chen's words. She reached out her hand and hit Xiao Chen. What if Xiao Bai isn't willing? He's still a child. When this king was his age, he already held great power in his hands. Xiao Chen silently said. However, when he saw Jing Yu's cold expression, he silently swallowed the rest of his words. Of course, I'm not forcing him, that's why I've talked with him today. So, you pig! Jing Yu angrily slapped Xiao Chen's chest and said, You're his savior. If you say that, he won't be able to refuse even if he wants to. You're making me angry. Okay. Xiao Chen quickly held Jing Yu's hand and said, I don't want our child to be involved in the matters in the imperial city. However, that doesn't mean that I'm not good to Xiao Bai. How about this? Can you talk to him tomorrow? Xiao Chen saw that Jing Yu was about to get angry again and immediately said, Xiao Bai can choose for himself. If he's unwilling, I won't force him. If he's willing, I'll ask the emperor to make him the heir tomorrow. Jing Yu pursed her lips and glared at Xiao Chen. She still looked unhappy. Xiao Chen suddenly had a headache. He thought that he should have told Jing Yu about this earlier. Otherwise, things wouldn't have turned out like this. Chapter 1737. Xiao Chen, when you took Xiao Bai in as your godson, you were thinking about today, right? Jing Yu said angrily as she looked at Xiao Chen. I swear to God, that's definitely not the case. Xiao Chen hurriedly raised his hand and swore seriously. Jing Yu was still angry. She pushed Xiao Chen away and said, The child is grown up now. He can make his own choices. Yes, I was wrong. Xiao Chen sighed deeply and admitted his mistake. Go away, I'll talk to Xiao Bai tomorrow. Jing Yu pushed Xiao Chen away and walked to the bed to lie down. Xiao Chen took off his clothes and said, I didn't want to force Xiao Bai to do anything. I'll do whatever you want. Don't be angry. Jing Yu turned around and ignored him. Xiao Chen climbed onto the bed and hugged Jing Yu as he said, You go and talk to Xiao Bai. If he's not happy at all, I won't say a word. Stop arguing, go to sleep. Jing Yu covered her head and closed her eyes to sleep. Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu and tightened his arms around Jing Yu. He said sarcastically, It's not good for the child to be angry. Okay. Jing Yu responded indifferently and turned around to go back to sleep. The incident with Xiao Chen that night was still a knot in Jing Yu's heart. Jing Yu felt that this was too unfair to Xiao Bai. Early in the morning, Jing Yu was sitting in the courtyard and basking in the sun when she saw Xiao Bai walk over from afar. Xiao Bai was dressed in black and stood in front of Jing Yu. Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with a faint smile as she slowly sat up. You're here? Jing Yu called out softly. Mother, you were looking for me? Xiao Bai looked at Jing Yu and asked. Jing Yu nodded slowly. Jing Yu stood up, looked at Xiao Bai, and said, I'm going out. Can you come with me? All right. When Xiaobai heard Jing Yu's words, he paused for a moment before nodding his head in agreement. Jing Yu had people prepare a carriage, took the blueprint, and left with Xiaobai. Today's weather was exceptionally good. Jing Yu sat in the carriage and looked at the blueprints in her hands without saying a word. Xiaobai curiously looked at the blueprints in Jing Yu's hands and leaned over. Mother, what is this? Xiaobai looked up at Jing Yu and asked, Did Mother draw this herself? Jing Yu responded and handed the blueprints in her hands to Xiaobai. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly as she said, Take a look. Do you like these things? What kind of clothes are these? Why haven't I seen them before? Xiaobai looked at the blueprints in Jing Yu's hands. The clothes drawn on the blueprints had clear symbols. Xiaobai looked at them and blinked his eyes in amazement. These are the new clothes I'm going to make for you. Jing Yu reached out and patted Xiaobai's head. She said faintly, Look at you. You're just like your father, wearing all black. In a few days it will be your Aunt Lan's wedding day. Naturally, I have to make some beautiful clothes. When Xiaobai heard Jing Yu's words, he was stunned. He looked up at Jing Yu and felt a warm current in his heart. His eyes were filled with gratitude. Thank you, Mother. Xiaobai lowered his head and said, What are you thanking me for? Jing Yu reached out and patted Xiaobai's head. She said in a conflicted tone, Other mothers make clothes for their children with their own hands. I don't have the ability, so I can only let others make these clothes. Chapter 1738. Ha! Xiaobai immediately laughed and said cheerfully, Mother, if you ever learned how to make your own clothes, I wouldn't believe it. You stinking brat. Jing Yu's eyes widened and she pinched Xiaobai's cheeks in disgust. The two of them started to quarrel in the carriage. Madam, we're here. Yin Xiao's voice sounded from outside. Jing Yu and Xiaobai both tidied up their clothes before stepping out of the carriage. Outside the carriage, they stopped at an Chang court. Where is this? Xiaobai stood beside Jing Yu and looked at the huge tailor shop. It looked different from other shops and from what he had seen before. This is my business. Let's go in and open your eyes. Jing Yu winked at Xiaobai and said gently. When Xiaobai heard Jing Yu say that it was her business, his eyes widened slightly and he walked in. Looking at the business, his eyes were tinged with a hint of surprise. The manager inside had already received the news and quickly came out to greet them. Boss, you're here? The manager was very thin and small. He was currently the manager of this shop. Jing Yu looked at him and nodded slightly, indicating that she knew. This is your eldest young master. Today, I'm going to make some clothes for him and the child in my belly. Jing Yu said indifferently. She turned around and walked into the house. She walked straight into the inner room and sat down on the chair that had been prepared long ago. But after Tang Hongyang went to the northern pastoral, Su Qian had single-handedly taken care of everything here. Jing Yu nodded with satisfaction and said, You've taken care of this place very well. It seems that Tang Hongyang didn't misjudge you. What are you saying? It's all thanks to boss and the second manager. Su Qian bowed and said, Let's sit down and talk. Jing Yu said faintly. She pushed the drawing on the table towards Su Qian and said, I just took a look at the style of the clothes in your shop. I drew it before, but you guys only made some slight changes. There hasn't been any new styles. Today, I drew some designs for clothes. Take a look and see if you can make them, Jing Yu said as she extended her hand towards Su Qian. Yes. Su Qian picked up the drawing on the table. After seeing the contents of the drawing, his eyes suddenly lit up. He said in surprise, Boss, your drawing came just in time. Jing Yu raised her eyebrows and asked curiously, What do you mean? Boss, you don't know. When Su Qian heard Jing Yu's question, he put down the drawing in his hand and said angrily, Not long ago, a new tailor shop opened up across the street. I don't know where the expert came from. The style of the clothes made by this shop is very novel. However, when I studied it carefully, I found out that they were simply copying us. They just changed it a little and made it their own. It's really infuriating, Su Qian said angrily. When Jing Yu heard this, the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. she said with interest. They copied our things? They even made it their own and made it so easy to make money? This is a little interesting. Jingyu narrowed her eyes slightly. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.